What's up, y'all? I really didn't want to have to make this video. I tried not to. I tried not to watch it. But I did end up watching that Netflix documentary on Diddy, and yeah. It's tough. It's a tough watch. I'm not gonna lie. And I just want to talk about it just a little bit. Not a lot of it, but a little bit. So yeah, I mean, if you don't know, I mean, you should know. But if you don't know, Netflix dropped a documentary about Diddy and, you know, his allegations and, you know, just how he got to that point. It was produced by, you know, the greatest troll we've seen thus far, Mr. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. And, you know, the documentary was just kind of a deep dive on Diddy's life, you know, from, you know, Catholic school to, you know, working with Heavy D to the beginning of Bad Boy and Biggie getting big, East Coast, West Coast beef, Biggie's death, then the shiny suit era, and then they moved on to his mogul era and so on and so forth. And then, of course, they got into, you know, the things he was allegedly doing behind the scenes, right? So I'll definitely say that this documentary is certainly a cautionary tale, right? Like it could literally come right out the Bible. Just, you know, someone who got to these heights and peaks of fame and then lost it all. You know what I'm saying? And here's one thing the documentary reminded me. Diddy is kind of a legend, okay? I'm gonna keep it a G. Diddy is kind of a legend. I forgot how many classic tracks that he did. I mean, Diddy really took off, truthfully, after Biggie's death. Like, he was a popular producer before then, obviously. And he, you know, he would take a lot of old school 70s jams, 80s jams, and then kind of remix it right, for the era. And it just, you know, it just felt good because those old school jams just feel good, right? They're the kind of jams people used to play, you know, at the barbecues and all stuff like that, right? So he kind of took that feeling and then gave it a hip hop feel for that modern era. Yo, that No Way Out era, right? that I Need a Girl Part 1 and 2 era, classic. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. Like, and especially because, you know, right before then, we were in like a gangster era, right? Pac and Death Row, Snoop, Suge, they was really on some gangster type stuff. And when Pac and Biggie died, it kind of felt like everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy too real. Are we that gangster? We didn't know it was this serious. And so when No Way Out came out, it just sounded so fun and it felt, you know, it just made you want to dance. Now, mind you, they was talking some gangster stuff on some of them records, but you really couldn't tell at the time because you was just too busy dancing, right? And a lot of us were kids at the time, so we didn't really understand some of the stuff they were saying. But, you know, it felt good. You wanted to sing along to it, you know. Bad, 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 bad boy. You make me feel so good. You don't want to kill nobody when you hear that. You know what I'm saying? You just want to dance. He was just fun, and it was such a different vibe from everybody else that was out at the time, you know? He just didn't feel like he was taking himself that seriously, or so we thought. And he would talk about different topics that other rappers at the time weren't talking about. Diddy had a whole song about Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm gonna say this. Not a lot of secular artists will make a song and say flat out they love Jesus. They'll say they love God or this universal being that brought them here. Not a lot of people say they love Jesus, he died for my sins. Not a lot of secular artists will do that. So a secular rapper releasing a song like that and making a video, that was kind of like very different at that time. And he kind of don't get any props. He didn't get no props for that at the time. But that was actually really different. He was kind of like Kanye before Kanye, right? Because he was producing the tracks as well, and making these songs that were about things you wouldn't necessarily expect a rapper to be rapping about. And again, outwardly, he wasn't gangster. Like, people didn't see him as a gangster outwardly. Behind the scenes, you know, debatable. but outwardly he didn't come across like that. And that's what was fun about Diddy, is like he didn't take himself that seriously. So even when the tough guys moved back in and you had DMX and Jay-Z and all that, you still had Diddy singing, I need a girl to ride, ride, ride. I need a girl in my life. You know what I'm saying? like he was just fun at the time. You know, he was fun and it felt good. Diddy's music just felt good. You know what I'm saying? And even when he wasn't doing music, he had the classic Making the Band series. You know what I'm saying? Making the Band 1, 2, and 3. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'll never forget when he made them people walk the Brooklyn Bridge, you know, to go get him some cheesecake. Now, in hindsight, red flag, right? But at the time, it was like hilarious and it was iconic. He had them washing cars and stuff like that. And while now we kind of look back on it, it was like, man, we look back on it and it's like, yo, that was kind of an abuse of power. At the time, it was just hilarious. Like, Diddy was very charismatic and energetic, and he was just fun to watch. He really was just a huge character and presence in hip hop, right? He didn't have to make music. He didn't have to write the songs. Don't worry if he wrote songs. He wrote checks. You know what I'm saying? He was just very entertaining. You know what I mean? But of course, behind the scenes, allegedly other things were going on. And I was watching the documentary, you know, and it just made me think about, it really made me think about hidden sin. The scary truth is I watched this documentary and I thought about myself. I saw myself in Diddy. Ain't that terrifying? Don't just let that sit with you. I watched the Diddy documentary and I thought about myself. Right? Because for a long time in my life, I had this hidden sin, right? Like, I said all the right things to people. I could talk to them about God. I could help people with their problems. I could help people with their lives. But when the lights went off, you know, I was a freak. You know what I'm saying? I was watching porn. I don't know why I'm whispering. I guess it just felt right. Anyway, but then in the daytime, you know, I could tell you all about Jesus and the Word of God. Boy, I could quote that Bible so well. But I was a different kind of nigga when the lights went off. You know what I'm saying? And it just reminded me of, yo, whatever sin you're hiding, whatever you're hiding in the dark is eventually going to be exposed in the light, if you're lucky. But that's usually how God works. Like, God will give you time to deal with your sin, right, in the privacy of your own life. But, you know, eventually that rooster's gonna come to crow. Eventually you're gonna be found out if you don't deal with it, right? God gives you a certain amount of time to deal with it, and if you haven't dealt with it by then, you deal with the repercussions or you get exposed, right? And it's crazy how sin is, right? Because, you know, when we feel like we're getting away with sin and we feel like nobody's looking, nobody's clocking us, you know, we don't have to take responsibility for this sin, you know, the sin festers and it grows, right? And we become emboldened, right? And we sin more. And eventually you stop feeling that what you're doing is wrong, right? Because it almost becomes a part of you. Sin becomes a part of you. You know what I'm saying? And you forget that, yo, if this thing got exposed, it could ruin you. It could ruin you, right? But here's the thing about sin is there's never just no one who doesn't know about your sin. God always knows, right? God sees all, knows all. You know what I'm saying? So even though you think you're getting away with something, you're really not. You're really not, bro. Like, the truth is, God is undefeated. God is undefeated, right? God made a law into the world, and it still works to this day. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. If you sow sin, you're always going to reap destruction if you don't fix it quick enough. If you don't fix it in the allotted time that God gives you, you're always going to reap destruction. Sin always reaps destruction, right? Whatever you put out there, you're going to get it back. And sometimes times two. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, sin is like a seed, like it's like a plant, right? So that seed starts out underneath the soil. The sin starts out underneath the soil where nobody can see, right? But if you keep watering that seed, watering that sin, right? That sin grows and it grows and it grows until eventually it sprouts outside of the ground and it sprouts into the public. And then the whole world can see what you've grown. The whole world can see your sin, right? And that's what you don't want to get to, right? You want to deal with that sin before it grows into a plant and it shows itself, it exposes you to the world. You know what I'm saying? Which we're seeing happening to a lot of celebrities, a lot of pastors. How many pastors in the past like 3 years have been exposed for having relationships, cheating on their wives, sleeping with their congregation, sexually harassing their congregation? Look, the church with the highest membership in America, he was exposed for, you know, sleep. Now, it happened 30 something years ago, but the problem is that he did that and he tried to hide it, right? And he tried to keep it under the rug, right? But the thing is, had he exposed himself earlier, he may not be going through what he's going through now, right? Like, had he exposed himself earlier instead of trying to just swipe it away under the rug and swipe her away under the rug, you know, maybe the church looks at him differently. Maybe the church looks at him like, okay, he said, yes, I used to have this problem, but I matured in my faith. I outgrew it and I'm a changed man. He may have still had to deal with the law. You know what I'm saying? But maybe his church doesn't kick him out, right? But because he tried to hide this sin and tried to just sweep it away, well, you know, that plant grew, right? And that closet with all them skeletons had so many skeletons that they couldn't fit in the closet no more, and the closet just burst open, right? His mess is everywhere for everybody to see. And, you know, because he wasn't honest from the beginning, from the get-go, right? And because he didn't stop it immediately, right? That sin had time to grow and fester, and now, you know, the pastor who had the biggest church membership in America, we're now seeing him in handcuffs, right? Like, this is not good. This is not good, but it's the wages of sin. The wages of sin is really, if it keeps going, eventually it's death. And, you know, not death in the physical sense. I mean, it can be sometimes death in the physical sense, right? But the wages of sin, when God says the wages of sin is death, he means eternal separation from God, right? Because God is an eternal God, right? So his punishment is eternal, just like he is, right? So when God says, I'm going to punish you with separation from me, it's an eternal thing. When you die and you're separated from God forever, that means it's forever. An eternal being is going to give you an eternal punishment, right? A human being isn't going to give you an eternal punishment, right? You might spend life in jail, but you could still go to heaven. They can't punish you eternally. But an eternal being, right, the cost is going to be higher, right? The cost is higher for messing with God. The cost is higher for playing with God. And here's the thing about the Bible. It says, yo, God can't be mocked. God can't be mocked. God always wins, right? God is undefeated. If you sow sin in your life, even if the world doesn't figure out, God knows. And the second you die, you gonna find out. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you something that the great prophet Kai Cenat once said. He said, God gonna handle you, bro. And I find it to be true. You read the Bible and it's full of people that God handled. Either you gonna handle your sin or you gonna get handled, right? Or your sin gonna handle you. Because here's the thing about sin, right? The Bible says sin wants to master you, right? Like, the truth of the matter is nobody really wants to sin deep in their heart, but it's hard to defeat your flesh, right? Like, I knew porn was wrong, Tinder is wrong, but that didn't stop me from doing it, right? I was literally fighting my own conscience, right? My conscience was telling me this ain't right, right? Even though I wasn't even as hardcore of a Christian as I am now, my conscience was still telling me this ain't right, right? But I still wanted to do it though, you know, it still felt good though. I ain't gonna lie to you. And the thing is, I started fighting my own body. I was wrestling with my own body and spirit, right? My body wanted to do it. My spirit didn't, right? So after a while, it's like my body and my urges controlled me, right? If you don't master your sin is gonna master you. And God says in the Bible, a man can't have two masters, right? Either God is gonna be your master or sin is gonna be your master, right? Either God is gonna lord over you or your flesh is gonna lord over you. But there's only one Lord, Joe. And if you pick a Lord other than God, you got an idol. You know what I'm saying? Your flesh can be an idol. Your urges can be an idol. Money can be an idol, right? Man can't serve both God and mammon. Mammon is just money, right? You can't have two masters. You can only have one master. You know what I'm saying? Master that sin before it masters you. Yo, when Cain was mad at God, God didn't yell at him. God didn't rebuke him. God just said, hey, yo, if you do right, you'll be smiling. You're frowning because you're doing wrong. And he said, you have to master sin because it wishes to have you, right? The sin in him was so much that it was almost alive and it wanted to have him. Sin wants to have you. You know what I'm saying? Sin wants to be your master. Sin wants to make you its slave. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we think sin is going to free us, but sin just enslaves us. You know what I'm saying? It feels good at the moment, but then when you're done, you're like, I really didn't want to do this. I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why this girl is next to me. I don't know what's going on right now. I want to be anywhere but here. Bottom line from this documentary is, yo, hey, sin always catches up with you. Sin always catches up with you. Look at them dudes who was going to Pedo Island, right? They thought no one would ever find out. And now that list is about to drop, and it's people out there that's nervous right now. You know what I'm saying? It's people out there that's nervous because they about to be found out. You know what I'm saying? Look at the dude who ran the place, right? I forget his name. Oh, Epstein, that's his name. Epstein. He allegedly hung himself. Probably didn't hang himself. Sorry, probably killed him. But point is that he got away with it for a long time, right? But it eventually caught up with him, and now he's dead. Now he's dead. He's dead because of the choices that he made, because he just let it sit there and fester for so long. And the thing is, he thought his sin was going to bring him a life of luxury and money and influence, and it did temporarily. But then it eventually brought him life in jail and then eventually death, right? Sin skews your reality. It makes you think that, you know, it's a good thing. And it makes you think that you're being rewarded. But it's all a trick, right? Because eventually you have to pay for the things that you've done. You know what I'm saying? The further away you get from God, the further away from reality you get, right? America's the perfect example of this. The further away this country gets from the Bible, the further away people get from reality, to the point where if someone tells you they feel like a tree, we standing around telling them, yeah, you must be a tree. Even though we all know he ain't a tree. He ain't got no bark. He ain't got no leaves, but we sitting there calling this man a tree just because he woke up one day and felt like he was a tree. You know what I'm saying? In 10 years, if he says, you know what, I don't think I'm a tree no more, we're going to be like, yeah, I guess you're not a tree. Nah, he was never a tree, bro. He was never a tree. This is what happens when you get further and further from God. You get away from reality. You lose your sense of right and wrong. You lose your sense of self, right? You know what's right and wrong. Like, you know God wrote that on your heart. But sin makes you lose yourself and you forget, right? You forget who you are. You know what I mean? And the thing about people's sins being exposed is it's honestly not the worst thing that could happen. Sometimes God exposing you is him saying, okay, you know what? I let you try and deal with this on your own. You refuse to deal with it. So I'm going to expose you, and hopefully you change, right? Hopefully you see the repercussions of your sin. You see the world's response to your sin and how appalled they are. And hopefully you change, right? Jail time ain't the worst thing that could happen. Hell time is the worst thing that could happen, right? 4 years in jail ain't nothing compared to hell. So a lot of times God is just giving you a chance to change before he has to really hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes being exposed is God's mercy and him just saying, okay, now it's out in the public. Now everybody knows. Deal with it. Deal with it now before you die. You feel me? But here's the thing about Diddy. I know you don't want to hear this. But I gotta say it anyway. He too is a child of God, right? He too was made in God's image, and he too can be cleansed of his sins. God's not mad at Diddy. God's not mad at anybody who's sinning. God's not mad at people who think they're a tree, so they turn themselves into a tree. God is just waiting for people to drop their sins and come home. God is just saying, come home, man. I'm not mad at you. Change your ways and come home. Sin no more, right? It's like that story about the son who left his father's house, went to live on his own and was wilding, lost all his money, came back home. The father wasn't mad at him. The father was like, yo, I'm just glad you home. We about to throw you a party. You know what I'm saying? We about to party, right? Like you never did anything wrong. Right? That's how God is. God is not mad at Diddy. God ain't mad at you. God is just waiting. God knew what you were going to do. Okay? God knew about the Cassie video before it ever happened. Right? And even knowing the evil that you were going to do in your life, he still allowed you to be born, right? He still didn't just make you drop dead the second you did evil, right? Because he's giving you a chance to make it right with God and change your ways, to ask for forgiveness and change your ways. Even with all the evil you did, God's still like, yo, just come home. Just change your ways and come home. It's fine. Go sin no more and it's fine. Come home, right? Come home. Nobody's perfect. A lot of people have some kind of secret sin that people don't know about. God's not waiting with an axe in his hand to punish you. God's just waiting for you to change. You know, the world may never see Diddy the same again, right? And he's just gonna have to live with that. That's the repercussions of some of the things he allegedly did. But God's not like that. God's ways are not our ways. God will always see you as a child of God if you turn back to him, right? God will always see you God will see you just as his friend, right? If you turn your ways around and follow his commandments, right? To the best of your ability. Nobody's perfect, but to the best of your ability, right? God made you in his image. When he sees you, he sees a tiny reflection of him, right? God don't hate you. God isn't mad at you. The world may be mad at you, but God isn't mad at you. To be honest, it don't matter what the world think of you. You know what I'm saying? As long as you get yourself right with God, that's what matters the most. Whatever's in the dark is gonna come to light, right? But God says, yo, go cleanse yourself and I'll wipe your slate clean. We can start over again. You can always start over again. But to be honest with you, I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy is a banger. And I'm just wondering, can I still play that at the function or not? Like, do I have to take that off the playlist? Let me know. Peace. I'll talk to you later.